Welcome my dear players, after more than a month since my last video. I know, but I had tests, I had work, and BT7 kinda sucked ass and no one wanted to play. Also, this channel is kinda an appendix of my hobby that is playing Digimon, so I didn't have time to make videos. I am not a channel that will generate content just for the sake of it. I will do plays and videos that I feel no one is covered or I could cover better. Yeah, I got pride on this. As the title says, let's dive in on a deep analysis of the game. In case you are a new player, you can see if it's worth get into it, and if you are an old player, you may find some thoughts that you want to confirm or just know before gambling for cards to buy. The actual state of the game. First, the English version. The cracks that Japan suffered are starting to be noticed. Only 3 or 4 decks are viable really. Gabu and Gabu Bonds, the Security Control, and the 3 Musketeers. No, I don't take Chessmon as a tier 1 deck, it breaks too easily, it's not reliable on my eyes. But don't despair, its time will come and it's going to be super violent and destructive. I have a video to prove it, but I have to edit it. I only just one dude here. So the meta for BT6, or X1 as you want it, shows the weakness of the game. It's level 5. Instead of going for a complete evolution line deck, you can go for something more aggro that doesn't really go more than one evolution step, or a deck that completely ignores the evolution steps. Why? Because most of the level 5s are expensive to evolve and you can take the luxury to lose them on the battle area. Most of the times you need them so your level 6 can actually become a threat to your enemy. The level 6 are expensive, but they have evolution effects that could become quite big, which makes the memory you pay worth. That's where the level 5s fail. They don't have good effects. This problem was so bad that it was carried to BT7 and finally on BT8, Bandai fixed it with Jogress evolutions. Even if they are expensive, they have amazing abilities and interesting evolution effects. Even the level 5s that aren't Jogress are strong, for example, Metal Greymon, Climbmon, Hisiariumon. All these cards make easier to reach level 6 or actually worth it. These level 5s were not the only lesson learned from BT6 and BT7. We have 2 new Lockdown Rockies on BT8, Kokuwagamon on black that states that players can't ignore Digivolution requirements, and Psychmon on purple which states that players can't reduce play cost. These are interesting but double-edged sword because it's for all players, not only for enemy players. Both cards are great counters to Bonds or 3 Musketeers, clearly. So if you are suffering Agu and Gabu Bonds right now, let me tell you, it gets better. The dead ends of the game and their counters. This game reached some dead ends that were pulled off with some fresh mechanics. At the start of the game, at least in Japan, it was all about going turbo to Omegamon. Not really a diverse meta, but soon got more interesting on BT3 or 1.5 for the rest of the world, with new kinds of decks, for example Imperial Gamon, Ragnarlordmon Black, or green variations. A bunch of decks. Crisis avoided there. Then we hit the top of Digisorption with green on BT4. It was so strong and fast that led to the first limited cards of the game. On BT6 we have no reason to go full evolution decks, a clear dead end for the main way to play the game. So in BT8 we got more interesting effects for the level 5s, Crisis avoided. Then we moved to BT7 where the hybrids took control over because only 2 cards could kill Tamers, Omegamon Defeat and Lucemon Fallen mode. Nothing could stop you from playing Tamers, they were, and still are, super useful. They work as an immortal racing area for the hybrid, but actually it's better because you have summoning sickness with the Tamers, so evolving them into a Digimon a turn after playing them can't let you insta-attack. So at the end we just need the memory and the right number of Tamers on the field. That way you can perform all the attack to win in 1 or 2 turns. To be honest, this set made a lot of people quit playing for a while. it was a constant frustration because two decks dominated. Yellow control with hybrids and blue lockdown with hybrids. All this shows a clear pattern. Bandai addressed the problems of the game, but it takes them one set in between to do it, which is quite fast for what card design and game innovation takes. This theory makes me believe that on BT9 we will have things that take care of tamers or stop options. Even if the state of the game is better on BT8, still face many problems. Tamers and option cards can be stopped. For some type of decks, the tamers are key, so I don't expect that we can get rid of them just like that. It will make them useless as a game mechanic. By the way, if you are curious, these are the most hated tamers so far. Analog Shonen, Sora and Joe, and Tomi Hibi or Tomoki. For the other side, there are convenient option cards that don't have really a counter, other than Emergency Program Shutdown or Shibamon. And still, Emergency Program requires 3 memory and a white permanent to be used, so it doesn't really have an use. These option cards that really take the game on a specific direction, which I fear it could be a dead end. For example, Judgment of the Blade, Mega Digimon Fusion, A Delicate Plan, Ice Wall, Schwartz Les Stars, I hope I read it that well, and now on BT8, Crimson Blade, and maybe Samadhi Shanti. If we take out the 6 cost cards, which are Super Stone Wipers, the pattern shows convenient effects for the lowest cost or non-cost at all. Hidden Potential Discovered was the same as these cards and got limited to 1 copy. And now we have people saying that it should happen the same to Ice Wall and Mega Digimon Fusion. So, should the restriction happen? I usually don't like the bans. It shows an actual dead end that is trying to be rewinded. What I would like is a more stable or cheap mechanic to stop the option cards like this. I know there are counters now, but none of them are good enough. The final problem, reprints. As you know, in Japan, unlike the West, the game is doing fine. Just fine. But we are getting close to the 2nd year, and that's always a critical point to any card game. It's the point where the players could get bored because nothing new is interesting, or the power creep became so out of control that no one else sees a future here. Even so, the elephant in the room is reprints. Bandai started adding these numbers on the cards to say what year or block do they belong, and still we have no news of the rotation, different formats, or even a reprint set. This brings the biggest problem to casual or new players, who can't get into the game because many old important cards are sold out or just not physically there. Like the commons, for example. No one keeps the commons. There was a new starter deck that was released with a lot of reprints of old cards with new art. Pretty cool. You have the Taichi, you have the old Wargreymon from BT1, a good reprint. But it doesn't cover the huge amount of cards missing. Take Davis for example. This card is an old and useful now that is worth $20 in Japan. And until BT5 it was just $2 or $5 tops. All this opens the big question. Will we have a set rotation that piss off players that have been holding these cards? Or we will have mini sets or full sets full of reprints? With the starter deck that came out, I am believing the direction of the game is reprinting. But as a personal preference, I would like set rotations with different formats. After all, 2 of the 3 big card games of the market do this and experience the lowest amount of bans and customers rage. Honestly, time will tell. But if the rotation happens, I see it only happening in the 3rd or 4th year of the game, when they can deal with the amount of reprints anymore. I can talk much more why I believe this, but the video is already long enough. I like to end the video with a hope note. Bandai kinda listens to their players. It's greedy as fuck, but they kinda listen. They try to correct or add new features for the game. Unfortunately, never overcorrections. And even with all these problems the game has, I will still play with passion, because it's freaking fun, man. Oh, and I got a top 8 in a challenge cup with my rogue deck. See ya.